Thank you again, Mr. Grablevets. Following will be Dr. Oesch, a physiotherapist with participation in more than 30 peer-reviewed articles and books on rehabilitation topics. He will introduce to us the practice of the Švice Valens Clinic. Thank you.
Počaščeni smo, da se vabilo na naš dogodek odzval priznani strokovnjak švicarske klinike Valens. Z nami je dr. Peter Oesch, ki je v svoji strokovni poti prisostvoval pri več kot 30 strokovnih delih. Predstavil nam bo delovanje rehabilitacijskega centra švicarskega Valensa.
Thank you very much for the introduction and thank you very much for inviting me to present rehabilitation, how it is done in Switzerland. My agenda is as follows. I will introduce Klinika in Valens, where I worked for many years. I will then show you how we do integrate advanced technologies in our clinical setting. I will give you a short overview on research projects that we did and that are still running. I will present you 2 clinical cases and then future perspectives in rehabilitation in special regard to advanced technologies. So first, a short introduction to Klinika in Valens. Klinika in Valens is situated in the eastern part of Switzerland. So right here is Austria. This is the Bodensee. Above is Germany, so we are really at the eastern part of Switzerland. We do run 3 inpatient clinics. That is Valens, Wallenstadtberg and Walzenhausen. And we have a total of 300 beds, inpatient beds, that we offer at the moment. These different inpatient centers have different focuses on rehabilitation. In Valens, it is musculoskeletal rehabilitation as well as neurological rehabilitation. In Wallenstadtberg, there is no neurological rehabilitation. This is primary pulmonology, it is geriatrics and oncology. And in Walzenhausen, it is again the same as in Valens. It's neurological and musculoskeletal rehabilitation. And in addition, we have also outpatient clinics. That one over here, it is in the city of St. Gallen, and that is an outpatient clinic which is very much comparable to what we are here at the moment, to Itero. We do that location there has 600 square meters, and we employ 20 persons at that spot, and we treat we deliver about 70 treatments per day. We have also an outpatient clinic in Chur, and not to forget, we will build a new clinic right into Zurich, which will have 120 beds, inpatients. So we may say proudly that we belong to the leading rehabilitation centers in Switzerland. What do we offer? We actually do offer standard rehabilitation services consisting of a multidisciplinary approach, consisting of physiotherapy, occupational therapy. We still deliver massage therapy. We do sports therapy, creative therapy, speech therapy, neuropsychology, and vocational rehabilitation. But it depends on the location. For example, in Wallenstadtberg, where there is no neurological rehabilitation, there will be no speech therapy, there will be no neuropsychology, and there is no robotics at this time, because the aim is a different one than in neurological rehabilitation. When did we start with advanced technology? We bought the first Locomat in 2003. So it was actually the 3rd Locomat running. So we have a long history of applying advanced technology within our clinic. Initially, we encountered many barriers. So there were skin irritation, there was incontinence, that we were not able to adjust to the joint angles of the individual patient. There were many organizational issues, and there was a big reluctance among the staff to introduce new technologies. Physiotherapists felt threatened that they will lose their job because now the robot is coming in and is doing its job. So if you start with advanced technologies, never forget that issue. And I will say it repeatedly today, you will not be able to run efficiently advanced technologies if you do not have a very well educated staff, professional team members that have a thorough knowledge of rehabilitation altogether. So this is Dimi, our first robotic therapist in Valens. He really was there from the right beginning, and he was always convinced that we find solutions. So that was really the main thing, and he had a very positive attitude. I do know rehabilitation clinics who failed to introduce advanced technologies because the staff was not ready to accept it. So if you want to introduce it, have a good focus on your staff and their attitudes towards new technologies. In 2005, we bought the Erigo. So we had 2 robotic devices and we were able to use it parallel. So one therapist were operating 2 machines at one time. That made it cost efficient and that made it more applicable. In 2008, we bought the Armeo Spring. In 2013, the Armeo Power. And since 2013, we use it in parallel. That means one occupational therapist is using 2 Armeos at the same time. In 2011, we started with video games, with Nintendo, and so the story goes on over time. In 2013, Valedo is also from Hokoma. It is sensor-based devices which are used for back pain patients. It was very well received. In 2016, we bought the Andago. In 2018, the C-Mill. And 2019, the Armeo sensor. So we have a lot of advanced technologies. And I will show you later on that we use it intensively. But this is only an addition to the traditional therapy that we still do. It is not done purely within robotics. We are not only applying robotics. This is something in addition, which allows us to provide a more intensive therapy. Intensity matters in rehabilitation. So the robotic machines are a mean to increase treatment intensity. You will not see the video that clearly because there is light from the back. But to give you an impression of our clinic and how we work with robotics, I will show you now a 2 minutes video and just observe. I will not speak. What do you see? It is fast recording. You have seen this therapist several times. It treats different patients at the same time. She runs from one machine to the other. She's one of our occupational therapists, and with that setting, we are able to provide a high intensity arm training. You see the Arrigo and the Locomat. There is one physiotherapist operating both of them. So while one patient is installed in the machine, the other one is training with it. So that makes it a very efficient setting. What you also have seen on the video is there is a lot of activity going on in that room. And it's actually very comparable to that room that you have here. So I would like to congratulate to that setting here. For me, that is the vision that we have in rehabilitation. There should be open rooms, there should be communications in between the patients and the therapists, and that allows you a most efficient setting. So we have exactly the same. So efficient setting, that is one of the key words. If you want to introduce new technologies, the localization of the devices is important. I have seen rehabilitation centers where the Locomat is in that room and the Arrigo is in that room. That is nonsense. It should be in the same room, so therapists can walk back and forth without any effort. And you can see here the Locomat, the Arrigo, and you see the three Armeos at one spot. Then the next thing is, how do we deliver quality? We have certified therapists who are really expert in applying new technologies. We do employ a goal-oriented treatment approach. We have regular in-service. Twice a week, therapists are getting further information, they are training. We created a competence group in robotics. So you will see a picture of them later on. We have a staff of 80 therapists, and 20 of them do know how to run the new technologies. The other 60 do not work with it. It is really a team of experts. You need experts, otherwise you're lost. And continuous research and development. I will speak about that later. So I've already said we have a specialized robotics team, and this specialized robotics team is providing services that are planned. So there is a referral for Locomat therapy, and the patient will be at 10 o'clock at that spot, and he will receive robotics therapy. It is not up on the decision of the therapist to say, well, I'm using the Locomat now. It is planned right from the beginning. We have some unplanned devices, and I can already tell you now, these are the ones that get dusted. They are not used. You must plan the devices. So how do we plan them? We have Locomat, Arrigo as a set, and we have the 4 other ones in another set, and we have a daily schedule. And the schedule is like this, you know. We start with the Locomat. It requires about 12 minutes to put the patient into it. Then the next one is coming. The Arrigo is, the next patient is in the Arrigo. So the therapist has a bit of time to do administrative work. And then he will take out the other patient from the Locomat. And so it goes on the whole day. So the therapist is assigned to that spot. That is the scheduling. You can see our software, our planning device. So that is the setting over the whole day. And that's how the locomote is planned. The same setting is with the Armeo. The patient is scheduled for 45 minutes. So one arrives, 15 minutes later the next one arrives, 15 minutes later the next one arrives, and so on. It's a bit like a machine, but that's what robots are. And you have to make it efficient. You have to plan that in advance, that it is used over the whole day. So just have a look up here. You see the yellow dots. This is the planning of the Armeo over this time. So how many treatments do we provide? You see, this is the number of treatments. This was in September 2018. Blue is the locomote. We provided 125 locomote trainings during 1 month. We do have less patients who are using the Armeos because walking is much more often a goal than increasing arm function. And on the right-hand side, you see on average 130 locomote trainings are provided per month. If you divide it by 20 working days, we only use it during working days, that is quite a lot. And that is only possible because we have an efficient setting, because we have trained therapists, because we have therapists who are really fast in putting a patient into it. And this is the professional crew. That's more or less the same. But since 2016, we have been recording locomote treatment. And the steps that have been taken on that locomote is from Klinika Valens right to the North Cape. These were the steps that our patients did all together, so quite a number. On the Arrigo, the same calculations. Since March 2016, 1,150 working hours, so it would add up to 1,800 times up the Eiffel Tower. This is only possible if you have an efficient setting and if you have trained therapists. So how am I doing with time? Because I can skip here a bit. I look at you. I have time. I'm sorry for you. I have time. Okay, so we have done, I picked a few publications that we did, and actually in 2008 we were among the first to publish a study on locomote training, and it was in patients with multiple sclerosis, and it was more or less a feasibility study because in the very beginning we were really, the pioneers. We were experimenting, is it possible, and so on. And multiple sclerosis patients was our biggest group. And we compared the outcome to a non-locomote group. So it was feasible, very good. We did overcome the problems. But at that stage, there was no significant difference whether the locomote was used or not. But it was a pilot study. The number of patients treated was small. So we were not able to really draw final conclusions for it. But most important, we learned that much. And that's what I would like to give you here. If you use new technologies, try to quantify the results that you get. We were involved in the development of Valedo. We were among the first who did pilot studies there. And I and a colleague of mine, we did use Nintendo Wii in stroke patients. The question was also, is it feasible to use such a device in elderly persons playing with the computer? And yes, it was. It was very feasible. Since then, we are applying exergames. And I published a study in 2017 that was a randomized controlled trial about the question was, what increases motivations in patients to exercise on their own? In the very beginning, it was clearly the exergames. But 10 days later, the exergames became boring. So exergames were not really what we hoped for. The instructional leaflets were at the end of the stay better acknowledged than the exergames. But I must say the shortcoming of that study was that we had only very few games. So exergames, we are still convinced, is something very important. You should use it, but you must have a variety of games and you must have increasing difficulties. If it's too easy, it becomes very fast boring. Okay, a current research project is about movement sensors that we give the patients before they come to rehabilitation. We measure their activity. Then we do it again at entry of rehabilitation stay, then at the end of the rehabilitation stay, and we measure again 2 months later. So what we up to now can tell is, in the time 4 to 6 weeks before rehabilitation, there was no change. Patients were exactly the same. During rehabilitation, there was a significant improvement of mobility. And we are now hoping that this will persist over time. But you sometimes hear rehabilitation is not effective, it's just a kind of vacation. It is not. We have been able to show that something happens during rehabilitation, function improves. I skipped that. Okay, now I'm not sure whether you can see the videos really, but we'll try. So that is one case example of a patient with an ischemic stroke in 2016. No, that didn't help. So he has dysphagia, he has dysarthria, facial paresis, and he trains twice a week at the Locomat. So that is not an inpatient. He's coming in twice a week to our rehabilitation center. And he wanted to get the feeling of, oh, that's better, that he can walk smoothly again, and he wanted to be more physically active. His wife also wanted him to be more active and to see her husband happy and cheerful, because he really got depressed sitting at home, sitting in the wheelchair and being unable to walk. That is a picture of him at home. I don't have a video of him at home, but you see he's in a wheelchair, he has a walker, his wife is assisting him, and it was really walking very, very slow, and he was very disabled. He was always afraid to fall. That is the patient in our clinic, and you wouldn't notice that he has a stroke if you just see that video. It is a normal gait pattern. You can see it from the side. You couldn't tell whether he's left or right hemiplegic. It's a physiological gait. And also from the forefront you see initial heel contact and last toes off. So that is just normal walking. He very much liked it, he felt stimulated, and we did see some improvements regarding body weight support. BWS is body weight support. So we were able to decrease the body weight support by 20% over the treatment time that he was with us. He was more physically active, and he was definitely much more cheerful than he was before. He was able to stand independent for 2 minutes. He was able to get up and down. He had a more upright posture, and he was able to walk longer. Now, he was not cured, but who would have expected that? He had a severe stroke. but he was much more easy to to be cared for by his wife. They were living at home, the two of them. So that was, in our opinion, a good success. But if you would look from the outside, you could say he's still in a wheelchair, he's still disabled. Yes, we were not able to get around that because he had a severe stroke. That is my second case example. That was a patient with Guillain-Barré. He was with us in 2018 and he was total tetraplegic. So he started rehabilitation in 2018, right? And he was there for 5 months altogether because recovery of Guillain-Barré takes some time. He recovered quite a bit. He was able to walk, but as soon, he was walking like this, that he was not able to bend his knee. As soon as he would have bended his knee, he would have dropped to the floor. So how could we make him walk? And we had this Andago, and he was doing his daily rounds within our whole clinic with that on his own. He was not observed by any therapist, and that was just a happy walking. He would not have been able to walk by himself. And we have been speaking about intensity, and that was our way to make him walk without danger of falling. And he was happy, we were happy, and he was able to be discharged back home. You can see it from the front. He's actually only holding on with one hand, and he would not have walked by himself. So, the future perspectives. There is something very important. I'm not sure whether you get it from pathology thinking versus theme thinking. If you compare a patient with multiple sclerosis with one with Guillain-Barré, with one with stroke, it's obviously a totally different pathology. But the effect of all of these is they have problems with walking. And that is theme thinking. The theme is walking. So we will, in the future, develop groups, irrespective of pathology, but with the primary aim of increasing walking. And we will organize it in such a way that it is more efficient, that there are a few therapists, that there are many patients, and they will train on their own in order to be very active over the day, because intensity matters at the end of the day. Robotics is, from our point of view, just one tool in the toolbox, but a very important toolbox. So we invested quite a bit of money, but we still will do the traditional types of therapy. We are exploring at the moment exoskeletons. Augmented feedback is a topic. Movement sensors are important for us, and telerehabilitation is also something that we are evaluating at the moment. The Hokoma machines here all give some performance augmented feedback. We are at the moment, together with Hokoma, developing an idea of incorporating this performance augmented feedback also in medical training therapy. There is some time to go, but I think that is a fascinating thought, to have also there some exogames while doing medical training therapy. So my take-home messages are: robotics work only as well as they are incorporated in daily practice. And this is the robotics team. Without them, we would not be able to be that efficient. And you see, almost only women, because they are technically very good, actually much better than men. And but 2 men made it into the robotics team. But this is really the value. The machines, yes, they are there, but without them, they will not work. And you have to be efficient, you have to be flexible, and you have to be very communicative amongst the team. You should do research, and we are convinced that robotics becomes even more an integrated part in rehabilitation. So with that I close. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm not sure whether we have time for a question or we just leave it as that.
Yeah, we're going to do a quick discussion
Okay.
with all of the
Okay.
speakers so far.
Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Oesch, for your presentation.
Hvala. Sedaj je čas zastaviti vprašanja. Da izvolite.
So yes, to answer your question, now it's time for the discussion, questions that anybody might have. So, go.
Dobar dan. Slovensko ali angliško?
Just fluent in angliščini, ker če ne bom
Okay.
več prevajal.
So my question is, how long was the man with Guillain-Barré syndrome with you? Was it a month or longer?
Which one? The one with Guillain-Barré?
Yeah.
He was there for 5 months.
5
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
And you could start the robotic training house soon, or
You know, in the beginning he was on the Arrigo,
yeah.
and then he was in the Locomat, and at the end he was able to walk on his own with the Andago. That is really the progression of the machines,
Okay.
right? And in addition, he had all the other treatments as well.
Yeah.
Because you know, with Guillain-Barré, you even have problems with breathing and hand and so
Yes.
on. So robotics was not possible to solve or to treat
No,
all
no.
his problems.
Of course.
That was just a part, one tool out from the toolbox.
And the walking took place for 45 minutes, or he went all out, or how did you?
He came every day and he did his rounds across the clinic for 30 to 45 minutes, in addition to all the treatments he had.
Yeah.
As he had. So that was an addition, right?
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Yeah.
Še kakšno vprašanje?
No. Okay.
Ne? Tako, sedaj je čas za krajši premor in okrepčilo. Vrnemo se ob 12. uri.